Injuries are extremely tough, but this is just the game we play. This is the game we love and the game that we watch and we talk about a lot on this channel. How will Joe Burrow and Nick Chubb's injuries affect the AFC North? I think that is something that we have to talk about. It's my burning question, a topic that we're going to talk about in today's video. And I want to start from the angle of the Bengals versus the Ravens. That was a pretty interesting game. The Ravens won by 3 points. Lamar Jackson showing some things in Todd Monken's offense. We're going to talk about all of these teams, but I want to start off with the Bengals. I have never seen anybody get healthier during the duration of an NFL season. A lot of people understand that. A lot of people have already said that, but you say it best because you look at it and say an ankle can turn into a knee can turn into a leg, a thigh, all of these different types of things. A thigh can turn into a wrist injury. One injury happens and then everything lingers because you're overcompensating with different parts of the body. And I'm looking at that and I'm saying, I just want to be a little cautious. Jamar Chase said it best in the preseason. Joe Burrow, get healthy. We don't need you for these first couple of games. We're going to hold it down for you. And I believed in that. I thought that, understand, I'm not comparing this to last season. I think that's the worst thing that I could possibly do, for me at least. I'm not trying to say just because the Cincinnati Bengals started last season poorly and they got on the run, went to the AFC Championship. I'm not looking at it from that angle. I don't think you intentionally go out and start a season 0-4. That was never in the Bengals' plans. But what I can say is that Joe Burrow, he could have. Now understand, we live and we learn. Some things happen. We can't go back and get the calf injuries back. But when I look at it and how it's lingering now, I think he could have sat those first couple of games out. And two things can be true, but two things are not true when we talk about that first game versus Cleveland. Because if we're gonna say this is the elite defense, this is the big and bad defense, if Myles Garrett can cross handle and do all these different things like he's Allen Iverson and then go get the quarterback, if Zadarius Smith is that guy opposite him, if Dalvin Tomlinson is that guy in the middle of the field, Grant Delpit is here finally out of LSU. If we can say all these things to be true, we can't say we expected the Cincinnati Bengals in those weather conditions with Joe Burrow wearing the glove. We can't say we expected them to go out there and have a monstrous offensive performance. And one thing one thing we all know, is quicker to catch on defensively to a scheme and play fast than it is to get in a rhythm offensively. That's just the nature of the game. That's how it's always been. So when I'm looking at that and I'm saying you go out against the Baltimore Ravens, you struggle offensively in the first half, try to get Mixon going, try to get Higgins going. That connection has been on and off, but when I think that Charlie Jones, shout him out, the receiver out of Purdue, he's going to make that transition outside of Tyler Boyd. Yes, it's going to happen. Bengals fans, I'm sorry. When you pay T. Higgins and you're going to pay Jamar Chase, when you do that and you just paid Joe Burrow that massive contract, Tyler Boyd is the guy who kind of gets left out in that equation. So Charlie Jones, the guy who's going to be that third receiving option in that offense, he got the punt return. Shout out to him, big time play. And then I think in that second half, you get T. Higgins the football in the red zone. You do some of those different things. The corner, listen, if you're a corner, it's going to be rough. If they're throwing that fade ball to T. Higgins, how can you truly stop it? If the quarterback throws the ball on the money, T. Higgins runs the perfect route, leaves the air to the sideline. Listen, this is a guy who's 6'4", 6'5", 200 plus. What can I do with that, coach? And he has the wingspan, the catch radius in the pure hands. So that's one thing. I think that's understood when we talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. Jamar Chase didn't really get going too much in that game. They're trying to get him the ball. They're trying to get him going. It's just not going there yet. Joe Mixon, like I said, he got going a little bit. Just a little. Didn't have a big-time rushing game, but just enough to keep those guys honest on the ground. And then we go up to the Baltimore Ravens. I think that what I'm seeing so far out of Lamar Jackson, Todd Monken is doing the right thing. He's being very smart about it. He's being methodical in his approach. And when I say methodical, it's not a slow offense. That's not what I'm saying. Let me clarify. I look at what you did versus the Houston Texans. I look at what you did versus the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm seeing how you're implementing these spread things that you ran at Georgia, some of those different things that you ran with Stetson Bennett. You're implementing some of those passing concepts, some of that scheme in the run game, but you're still letting Lamar Jackson do what he does best. I think that's the worst thing these new offensive coordinators try to do, or not even new offensive coordinators, just offensive coordinators in general. You try to really evolve a guy's game, you try to elevate him to a different level, and then you forget who he is totally. You guys know who I'm talking about when I refer to doing things like that. You try to make a guy something he isn't. You forget the design quarterback runs. You forget all of that. Todd Monken didn't do that. Yes, they're passing the ball a little more. Yes, they're running those 3x1s. Yes, they're running those empty sets, but you're still running that typical quarterback option. You're still running that quarterback power and the quarterback wrap. So I'm seeing all of that, and I say, okay, this is a guy who knows what he's doing. And like I said, the passing game looks good. Lamar Lamar is looking good from the pocket. They're keeping him clean on the offensive line. So you have to love that. The run game, J.K. Dobbins, yes, it hurts. It hurts because out of Ohio State, we expected so much of him. And it's not to say he can't be that, but the injuries have been a stinger for J.K. But I'm looking at Justice Hill, speed out of the backfield. I'm looking at Gus Edwards. He's been that constant thumper for them for a couple years now, being that guy. And understanding when you got Lamar Jackson, it's +1. It's those numbers in the run game. And a lot of schemes and different things with the running of the football, you look at it and say, how can we beat you from a numbers advantage? You got Lamar Jackson, so the defensive end, the read guy. Any guy that's reading Lamar Jackson has to stay honest. Now he can't play on the running back. That's one thing that you're always going to have with the speedy quarterback like that. So I respect the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're number 1 in this division. So when I say how does it affect it, I think it's going to keep the Ravens in first place a little longer. And this may really impact you when you get to the playoff seeding. You look at teams who want to be first in the division, get that home playoff game. The Ravens, because right now they're starting off kind of hot and they have guys healthy, fairly healthy. Everyone's not healthy. It's never going to be that way. But you have Lamar healthy. You have some of your weapons healthy. Zay Flowers healthy. Nelson Aguilar, he got behind the defense a little bit. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, this is the team in the best position to succeed right now. And converse, talking about the Cleveland Browns, I thought that was really my wild card. I thought that was my dark horse in the AFC North. And it's not to say it can't be. It's not to say it can't be, Cleveland fans, because understand Nick Chubb is a top 3 runner of the football. But I kind of believe in what they have in that system, what they have in that offensive line. Now, you gave up 6 sacks, and yes, that's never good. But running the football, you got Wyatt Teller, you got Joe Bettino. I'm looking at that, and I'm saying DeJuan Jones at the right tackle position. I think effectively you will be able to run the football. Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt just had to visit to Cleveland. I'm looking at Pierre Strong Jr., some of those guys that I'm calling out. You're understanding that it's not going to be one dominant guy, but a little more running back by committee. And those are good backs, especially with the offensive line, especially with some of the weapons on the perimeter. We can't just stack the box. Now, you say if we stack the box, how are you going to kill us? How are you going to make it happen? David Njoku struggling a little bit, seeing some things out of him. We look at Donovan Peoples-Jones. We look at some of the other guys, Elijah Moore's of the world, Amari Cooper's of the world. And I think that it all comes back to number 4. That guy under the center for Cleveland. And he's been struggling for me. Now, I don't know, and I'm not going to be the guy to say he can never get back to that point, but if I'm going to be critical of Justin Herbert, if I'm going to be critical of Justin Fields, if I'm going to be critical of some of these other guys and some of these guys who've gotten paid, I can't leave Deshaun Watson out of that conversation. He got 230 of them. All guaranteed. A lot of people want to talk about Jalen Hurts. A lot of people want to talk about Justin Herbert. Some of these other quarterbacks. If Lamar Jackson was struggling, they would have drug him through the water. But we're not talking about that guy in Cleveland. And I think that he's a really good player. He was special in Houston. And I'm not saying he can't get back to it. Please understand that. But I'm saying right now today, I'm analyzing what I'm seeing in front of me, and that is not the guy that I recognize. That is not a good quarterback under the center. Some of the things he's doing, and we're going to get to the film eventually. We're going to get to the film one of these days and talk about it because a lot of people don't believe it until you show it to them. So I'm going to show you that in a couple weeks. But right now, as I'm looking at it right now with what I have to talk about, I just don't think you have the crucial fumbles. I think about it in the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got a turnover and went 3 and out. People are saying fire Matt Canada. Najee Harris is not the guy. Jalen Warren is way better. Kenny Pickett is not the guy. Year 2 is not it for him. All of these narratives and all of these things with the offense, and they still managed to win. Defense won that game for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was because they couldn't get it going offensively in Cleveland. I look at some of the guys, and like I said, the talent is there. The defense is still there. We're not discrediting the defense. That's still an elite defense. I still believe in Garrett, Zadarius, Dalvin Tom. I still believe in all those guys. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, clap it up for him. That's still an elite defense. But when we look at that team over there in Pittsburgh, it's kind of tricky because you look at Cleveland, you look at Pittsburgh. Now, I still think Baltimore and Cincinnati are the top 2 teams. When I say how does it affect? But Nick Chubb's injury may be more painful because it's not that they won't be able to run the football. It's the fact that we don't have that one guy that puts the fear in defenses. And we're going to have to prove it to a couple of teams. And when Deshaun Watson is put to the test, he just hasn't passed. I mean, he's been put to the test and he started taking the test backwards. Some of these games the first 2 games that we're seeing from Deshaun at least. And then I look at Pittsburgh, like I said, I talk about the offense. George Pickens had an amazing game. But the biggest thing is that I don't know what Matt Canada is doing. I'm not, I don't want to say it's all on the weapons. I don't want to say it's all on one person or this or that, but I'm looking at some of those play calls. Why are you running quarterback option with Kenny Pickett in a 2nd and long situation? Why is that ever the play call? It's not doing anything. And then at the end of the day, it's a really tough read for him. So now we're looking at the defensive end. He's not really biting down. And even if he pulls it, he's still able to make the play. You got to rip that one out of the playbook. And if you don't rip it out of the playbook, understand when to call it, Matt Canada. I'm looking at the defense. I clap it up for those guys. I mean, Elandon Roberts, that's a linebacker. We're probably going to get to his film one day. I'm looking at everything he can do. Alex Highsmith, he's showing you that he was worth the contract, is a number 2 pass rusher. TJ Watt is what he is, defensive player of the year watch. Some of the other guys, Cam Hayward dealing with the injury, but we got the Marvin Leals of the world stepping up. I mean, Cole Holcomb stepping up. Some of the safety stepping up. I'm looking at everything collectively and saying, this is still an elite defense. And it's crazy because this is a division of the defenses. I look at the Pittsburgh defense, I look at the Cincinnati defense, I look at Cleveland's defense, Baltimore's defense, and you go every which way and you say, I don't know if that's a team I want to play defensively. But like I said, though, I still think it's going to be tough when I look at Cleveland, I look at Pittsburgh. And Joe Burrow, for me, everything comes back to health. As long as he can stay healthy, I do think they'll have a good season. But it's still going to affect them because what if it turns into something worse? And I'm not putting hypotheticals. Let's knock on the wood. But we know how these calf injuries linger. Everyone who's had an Achilles battled with a calf. And that's just the tough reality of it. But like I said, Baltimore, shout out to them. I really like what they're doing. My number 1 team in the North right now. And I'm just looking at Cleveland. I'm looking at Pittsburgh. Can Pittsburgh bring it offensively? Like I said, I like the weapons. But can Matt Canada, can he step it up offensively from a play calling aspect? I'm just not liking the flow of the play calls right now. You have some things that you can call, but it seems like he just doesn't know when to pull certain triggers. That's just what it's seeming like to me. Watching the game live, of course, I'm going to go back and watch the all 22 of that one. But like I said, though, talk about the Cleveland Browns. Still some room for optimism, but I just think that Deshaun Watson has to step it up. I tell you, we talk about the quarterbacks, like I said, but we haven't really been critical of him. No one's talking about it. Defense is still elite, though. I think they still have a running game. It's just going to look a little different, but I'm kind of worried about those last 2 teams that I talked about in Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I've been going on for 13 minutes here now. We're about to wrap this up. How does Joe Burrow and Nick Chubb's injuries affect the AFC North? And when we look at the hierarchy, I want to leave you with this thought. I'm looking at Baltimore. I'm looking at Cincinnati. I'm looking at Pittsburgh over Cleveland because they won the game. But there were so many spots of opportunity for Cleveland to win that game. And they come out there with an L. That's a tough one. You got to look at Deshaun. You got to look at the turnovers. 2 defensive touchdowns for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's a tough break no matter which way you split it. So let me know down below in the comments. Once again, thank you for watching as always. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That's going to do it for today's show, though. And now